Welcome to the Federalist Society opening event. We are so excited you are here today. Special thanks to Dean Smith for being here. We're excited he's here. Today we're just going to go through a couple of quick things about our club, and then afterwards we're going to keep airing the Kavanaugh hearings. So if you'd like to stick around and socialize and sign up, we'd love that. So I'm going to turn the time over to Matt, and he's going to get us started.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming in such great numbers. Let's see, we have this background. Thank you so much. My name is Matthew Bell. You can call me Matt. I am the president of the DOA chapter of the Federalist Society. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled for such a great attendance. And I'm thrilled for members of the board that we'll introduce shortly. But first of all, I'd like to thank Allie, our vice president here, who will be hosting us and emceeing us. Thank you, Allie. All right. So here, Federalist Society, we're not just studying Federalist papers, etc., but there is a lot of basics. So we'll invite you to take a look at this. The Federalist Society, how many of you guys have heard of the Federalist Society before? How many of you have been members of the Federalist Society? How many people are brand new? How many else do we have here? Alrighty. So, I'll give you a little bit of a background on the Federalist Society. So it started out in 1982. A small group of law students from Harvard, Stanford, University of Chicago, and Yale organized a group, the Federalist Society. The students were greatly dissatisfied with the academic climate on their campuses and wanted to create a forum for debate and on a wider range of legal viewpoints that they were being exposed to in the course of their studies. So that's where it all started. These are some of the members of the original, we have here Lieberman Otis. We have Stephen Calabrese, or some of your peers, some of your friends or Ed Meese, or some other well-renowned lawyers and judges and attorneys general. Anyway, so since 1982, the society has grown to include over 200 law school chapters and has become the major force in legal education. Currently, the national organization has approximately 60,000 members. The Federalist Society now includes lawyer division chapters in 80 cities, as well as 15 practice groups covering very specialized areas of the law. All chapters and practice groups are run autonomously by their members, with speakers and other resources provided by the national office. So, what do? The principal goal of the Federalist Society, or as we call it, FedSoc, is to foster debate among students, academics, legal practitioners, and public policy experts at the law school level. Accordingly, the Federalist Society funds speeches and debates at their law schools. The society seeks to create a sense of community and to promote the exchange of ideas among conservatives and libertarians involved in the law. If you're here today in law school, you might have a bunch of different motivations. Some of you want to be prosecutors, some of you want to be corporate lawyers, and some of you want a public interest or whatever it is. All of you have come for different reasons and come to challenge yourself. Here, sure, a lot of us are conservatives, libertarians, but what's most important for the Federalist Society is the exchange of ideas, to challenge your own ideas, and to share your ideas. So this is really, the Federalist Society is really a debate society. It's really a sharing of ideas. And if you're in law school, I'm going to bet that it's part of the reason why you're here, to challenge your own ideas, to formulate your ideas, to challenge other people's ideas, and to grow your ideas. It's not only for conservatives or libertarians. One of our major viewpoints is, we believe that the judiciary is to do its job and the legislature to do its own job as well. So if you believe that policy making belongs to Congress, then this club is for you. Here, I want to just kind of joke. We're a lot bigger now than we used to be. The Federalist Society it's all over the place. At the leadership conference, there were even some international chapters. Here we got some of the views from some speeches from some Supreme Court justices, and as you see, it's not just Scalia and Thomas. Elena Kagan. I love the Federalist Society. And she does, and we love her. She considers herself a textualist, believe it or not. Before we turn the time over to Dean Smith, and I have a lot more for you. We have a special message here from a guest, a former alum who was once in your seats. Anyway, so we'll hear from them. This was taken, by the way, in between the hearings this morning. Most important today, we're most grateful for today, our special guests that we have here today. Please welcome Dean Smith.
So I've been in meetings all morning. Did somebody call the Judiciary Committee the Evil Empire? Oh, it didn't happen. So I got to catch up on the Kavanaugh hearings. So, well, thank you for being here. Thanks for having me. I wanted to tell a little bit autobiographical about the Federalist Society, and then maybe just an encouragement that echoes Senator Lee's. I was a law student at the University of Chicago and in 1987, so I arrived 5 years after the Federalist Society was formed. There was still a lot of excitement around the forming of the society. It wasn't present in that many law schools at the time, but it was a real force at the University of Chicago. And I got involved when I was there. I was one of the officers in the Federalist Society. In fact, I was in charge of speakers. That was my job, was to recruit speakers. And one of the things I really deeply value and think is important to any law school community is the opportunity for civil discourse on really difficult constitutional and other legal questions. And the Federalist Society was a place where those sorts of conversations could happen. It's exactly what Matthew said and what Senator Lee said. I found the Federalist Society events to be really enriching, and that's one of the reasons the Federalist Society has fans across the political spectrum, because of its openness to that sort of debate. So I would encourage you as a local chapter to facilitate that. So when you do have events, to have people of differing viewpoints. Now, some of the best arguments we had were actually among members of the Federalist Society at Chicago. Conservatives and libertarians can have some pretty raucous debates sometimes. But even those who were didn't self-identify with either of those viewpoints were, of course, welcome, and we had a tremendous amount of extracurricular conversation about the law. I would say, other than the law review, which was also a great experience during law school, it was the single most important part of my law school experience outside of the classroom. We had a lot of events, and I know from seeing the schedule this year that you already have a number of things scheduled. I'd encourage you to partake of those and really expand your horizons. In fact, I was so enamored with my experience with the Federalist Society when I became a legal practitioner. I was a practicing lawyer in Delaware, that I started the Wilmington, Delaware chapter of the Federalist Society. And our first speaker was a guy named Pete DuPont, who ran for president a while back, and then we so excited that he asked us, or that he accepted our invitation to speak, and we were excited until he had us write his talk for him, which was less fun when you're trying to bill 2,400 hours. But the talk eventually got published in his name in the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy, so I feel like it was my first publication, even though I just got a little acknowledgement in the first footnote. But I think there and in law school and since law school, I've attended many Federalist Society events. In fact, even as recently as this year, and find that the conversations are always stimulating to me. And so I want to put in a plug for civil good discourse, for expanding your horizons, for really listening to people and seeing what you can learn, because I think that is part of what we want to inculcate in your law school experience. So thanks for having me.
Alrighty, I will excuse the dean. There is a faculty meeting, so we're extremely grateful he was able to give us some time for that. Next. Watch it again. Alrighty, so before we introduce our board, which are amazing people, I just want to kind of give a little bit of context of what's going on and where you can fit in. And we'll talk more about this later. But about a year and a half later, towards the end of my 1L year, I'm a 3L. There was like an email that went out, FedSoc, come organize a meeting. It was like 4 of us and 206, whatever that is, and we're trying to, all right, who's going to be what? Come on, will you do this? We didn't, we're trying to figure out. And we'll talk more about this, but last year was just amazing. And why? Because people stepped up. And Allie's going to be talking more about this, but I kind of want to embarrass her here. But last year, she was a 1L. And she got involved today. She's our vice president. She's done a tremendous amount of work. And she's gotten involved. She's gotten to meet a lot of neat people. What I'm trying to say here is that any of you can meet her. Mike Lee volunteered once upon a time. Dean Smith once upon a time volunteered to be in the FedSoc. So I'd love for you to get involved. And we say it's kind of cheesy, but it really is true. We hang out all the time. We're kind of a family. And we have a group chat, and we kind of even get too funny. I think we start a second group chat for the funny part and for the official stuff. Anyway, we'd love for you to get involved. I'd love to get to know you better. But we'll talk more about that, so I'll leave that to Josh and Adam here for a second. So here we have a lot of people on our board. They're sitting around us here. Some of them are still around taking pictures, counting you guys. But for sake of time, we're just gonna, clap for each individual. All right, this is me. I did not choose this picture. But I'm Matthew Bell. I will be the president, so come here. Ali Coulson, our vice president. Josh Jones, our director of speakers. This is actually him. He's a Marine. Our assistant. Are you kidding? Here you go. Okay, our assistant director of speakers is great. Michael Mendenhall. Sean Holzheimer. And David Smith. Alrighty. Malia Moody Coddles now is our director of logistics, just married about a week or 2 ago. She's returning the course, so thank her a lot. Some of our assistants, Neil Liu and Kevin Moskin. You'll stand. Alex Clark, our director of communications. Some on the communications team, Charles Sherrill, Andrew Richards, Taylor Smith, and Justin Miller. Nick Nielsen, our director of membership. And the membership team, Laura Ashdown, and Paul Fife, and James Lee. Austin Montgomery, Director of Finance, he's the one getting in charge of making sure we can pay for the food. And the assistant, are some roles here. If you want to sign up, we'd love for you to do that. If you're interested in getting involved more, we have a 1L rep. We'd love to get 10 1L reps if we can, or as many as we can. If if you're interested in social media, we can get more people on social media. We can get on MySpace or whatever it is. Get involved. We'd love for you to. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you to our board, and looking forward to having you. Alex.
Alright, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we did last year. So last year we had 16 events, and we averaged over 90 attendees for each event. This is a picture of our group in the District of Columbia last year. The FedSoc had their National Student Symposium there. We had 15 attendees at this event, which was crazy. We were like one of the biggest groups there, and we're from the West Coast, which was really awesome. We were also the runners-up for Chapters of the Year last year. I think we lost to Yale. Yeah, we lost to Yale. So, we're not going to let that happen this year, right? Oh, there's bullet points, sorry. And we were nominated for 3 FEDIs, which is a big deal. FEDIs are these awards that the National Student Chapter gives out. You apply for the award, brag about yourself a little bit, tell them how cool your club has been over the past year. We won one a couple of years ago, the James Madison Award.
This was the creative advertising one, the Sam Adams.
The Sam Adams
They
Award.
joked around it was the first time you could find a Sam Adams at BYU.
Yeah. So at that event, we actually got this really cool shout out from Justice Thomas. So we're gonna go to that and just check it out. Oh, maybe. Oh, there we go. Technology. Right. Thank you, Justice Thomas. That was awesome. Awesome. So this year is going to be even bigger, and I'd like to introduce Josh Jones, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what we're looking at for this year. Welcome, Josh Jones.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone again for coming out here. I know there's free Chick-fil-A, but it still means a lot to us that you can come out and listen to our pitch. So as Ali said, I'm going to be talking about why you should be excited to join the Federalist Society, our chapter this year. And I'd like to start by giving a preview of just how great the events we have that are coming up. So right now, you already have 10 events scheduled for this fall semester, and many of them already have debate opponents committed. But we'd love help getting more debate opponents and even more energetic ones. So it's going to be a busy year. We also have another 4 that have already committed to come in the winter. And so now I'd like to go over some specifics because these people really are just incredible. So we're going to have Richard Duncan, who was a big event last year. He's going to come and speak about the masterpiece case shop decision and whether free exercise is kind of making something of a comeback. He's from the University of Nebraska College of Law. We have Josh Blackman, who's a prolific writer. He comes from the Texas South College of South Texas in Houston. And he does, he's actually gotten pretty famous recently because he's been doing a lot of the cases involving the 3D gun printing. But what he's going to come talk about is Trump versus the legal resistance. And so talking about how lower courts have been pushing back against some of the Trump agenda and which of those tools have been appropriate, which have not been. We have Christina Sandiford coming. She's the executive director of the Goldwater Institute, which is a nonprofit public interest law firm in Arizona. And she's going to be speaking about FDA regulations and the right to try. We have Ken Shanmugam, who's really just one of the most prominent members of the Supreme Court bar. He got 3 cert petitions granted in 1 day last month. So he's always in front of the Supreme Court. He's a Scalia clerk. He works at the big law firm Williams & Connolly in Washington, D.C. We have Amanda Tyler, who's a professor at the University of Berkeley, and she's going to be coming with Judge Griffith, who has a pretty good connection with BYU. He's on the D.C. Court of Appeals, the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, and both of them are going to be discussing habeas corpus in wartime and how that's evolved over the decades. We're going to have our own Professor Stephanie Barkley, who used to work at the Beckett Fund, which is a nonprofit that specializes in religious liberty. She's going to be talking about the Trinity Lutheran case, which she actually worked on, and she's going to be debating someone from the Missouri state government that was on the other side of the case, so it's going to be awesome. We're going to have our own Justice Lee, who's going to be talking about this pioneer in the emerging field of law and corpus linguistics. He's going to be speaking to us. We have Alan Gura, who is, if you don't know, is the big shot attorney who is behind all of those gun rights cases. So he's the one who argued DC versus Heller, McDonald versus City of Chicago. This is McDonald right here next to him, the elderly gentleman. And we're going to have Professor Tom Yin, who's from the Lewis and Clark Law School, and he's going to be speaking on national security laws, national security lies, and what, if any, repercussions there should be for when our elected officials lie to us in the name of national security. And then we're going to have Sheldon Gilbert, who's I think also a BYU grad, undergrad, and he works at the Institute for Justice, which is another nonprofit in Washington, D.C. So these are not even all the events we have planned right now. But as you can see, it's a very diverse cast. They come from lots of different parts of the political spectrum, different parts of the country, and very different parts of the legal profession. So if you want to get to know people who have connections with judges or who have connections with big law, public interest, government, these are all the kinds of people that you'd like to come interact with. And usually you can just come up and talk to them right after the guests and their debate opponents. So along those lines, the other big reason to join is the network. So you've probably seen all these scary headlines recently, right? The Federalist Society is taking over the country. And it is true that 21 of the 26 circuit judges that have been appointed under the Trump administration have been active members of the Federalist Society, speaking at events. And so this really is a great way to get into a pipeline for clerkships and employment opportunities, because people like to see that. And again, I'd like to reiterate that doesn't mean that everyone joins conservative libertarian. They like people who like to get involved with debates and really think about an issue and analyze from a judicial philosophy standpoint, not just a policy standpoint, why a case should come out a certain way. The other big poll is the National Student Symposium. Last year it was in DC. You saw the picture of us. That was at the Supreme Court. We got to hear from all kinds of cool people, including Justice Thomas. We were 100 feet away from him. We knew just that. It was just awesome opportunity. This year it's going to be really close. It's just going to be in Phoenix at the Arizona State University, Sandra Day O'Connor School of Law, and the talk's going to be economic liberty. So again, they will fund up to half of your travel costs to get down there. I think if we road trip, we save even more money, so we might have to pay that's road trip.
If you drive down.
Yeah. So, and again, all this is for $5, right? So that would barely cover maybe the cost of your sandwich today. But what are you going to get for $5? So if you don't join FedSoc, you take that $5 and you could get a footlong at Subway. Kind of, if you pick up a sandwich, like 2 of them, and you refuse to pay taxes. That would be an interesting place to make that philosophical discussion happen, but you try that. You get 1.5 movies on Amazon if you rent, right? 4 cans of maybe definitely caffeinated soda. Maybe not even 4 if you buy it from here, frankly, cut up by bulk. Or you can get 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks. Just kidding. Or you could have a fast pass to 15 plus catered meals throughout the year. We're shooting for 20 events. You're going to have a subsidy to the National Student Symposium in Phoenix, access to the nationwide network of judges and practitioners, leadership experience. This is another great thing to get on your resume. pretty much if you want to be involved on the FedSoc board, we will find a place for you, we will put you to work. And that's a great thing to have on your resume, especially the 1L, right? And it really is, again, just a great community. It's just such a fun, it's great to be with people that are completely open to all these different opinions and ideas and that enjoy talking about them. And we try to do some other social events throughout the year as well. So that's our pitch for why you should get involved, and I think Matt's going to close us out here. Or Alan close us out? All right.
We're gonna look at this picture. It's great. So you've probably heard a lot, especially the 1Ls, you've heard a lot, like be a 1L rep, this is awesome. So I was a 1L rep last year, and it was great. It was a great opportunity to get to know people in my class that I wasn't going to meet otherwise. You have probably figured out by now that you only meet half the class in your classes, right? And then your small section, it's even smaller. And then your small section, it's even smaller. So you know like 11 people pretty well in the law school. So the first, I guess is the first benefit is to know people in your class that you wouldn't normally meet. We're looking for a bunch of you. Matt threw out some numbers. And I've got some like interest sheets here. So I'm gonna start them on the edges. And if you're 1L and you're interested in being a 1L rep, go ahead and put your name on this sheet and your email on this sheet. And we'll be in contact with you shortly and put you to work. And it's not a ton of work as a 1L, but you get to know a lot of cool 2Ls and 3Ls. I should mention the 3Ls. The 3Ls are cool too. But you're setting yourself up to be able to be on board for later positions. You're getting your name out there and getting involved in this organization, which has been really great. I'd also like to invite you to follow us on Twitter. We are at BYU_FedSoc. It's pretty easy, at BYU_FedSoc. If you forget that, then look us up on Facebook, BYU Federalist Society, and then find our Twitter page from there. And then last but not least, come to our events. We want to see you. Sign up now, today, if you can. Like they said, you'll have a fast pass line for the rest of the year. And our first event is on Monday, September 17th at noon. And like Josh mentioned, it's going to be a Masterpiece Cake Shop event, which last year was one of our funnest events of the year. I think the people that were here last year can tell you how fun it was. We'll probably have cake, which is always a good excuse to come to something, right? But with that, please stick around, ask us questions. You've seen the board. We'll stick around for a few minutes and answer your questions. Sign up, there's laptops in the back. And then there's also like these interest sheets going around for 2Ls, 3Ls, and then 1Ls as well, I guess. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and have a great day.
So these were the people who beat us last year, so we want to do this. Before you join, after you join, right? So get involved.